listen and not be distracted, and if they have slides, you don't get to see each other anyways. So
I'm in, Janice, and I can see all of you, so it gives me, yeah. But
oh,
anyway,
okay.
try one more time.
I could, Nicole, if you can't.
Join meeting.
Let's see here.
Oh, Nicole, you're in City Hall.
I am.
No, I saw the back of her head there just a minute ago, so I knew that I could see her. It's coming off the other camera, I think. There she is. There was her head. I saw the top of her head.
Or do you want me to just move? It might be easier for me to move. Yeah, that's weird.
Oh, there she is.
We're just getting our new counselor all set up here. It's not our fault by any means.
Oh, yeah. It's not.
Are we all ready?
We're live.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I'm not wearing my mask right now. I got to take it off for the meeting. But what I do want to start the meeting by saying, on behalf of myself and council, a very special thank you to our community for their due diligence over the last year and a bit in following the direction of Dr. Bonnie Henry, our health officer, and Adrian Dix, our Minister of Health, and the Premier. And by the news we got today, it clearly indicates that following those measures is paying off. Getting your vaccination, and those of you who are not registered or not vaccinated, please do so, because it helps all of us get to the end of this tunnel sooner than later. So with that, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I'll start with the Aboriginal Acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the land on which we are gathered as the traditional territory of the Tanaha, the Selkirk and Sinix peoples, and is home to Métis and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honour their connection to the land, rivers, and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. And with that, I don't think there are any late items that I'm aware of, other than I just want to let council know that Sarah has something she wants to go over with us at the end of the meetings. So don't leave when we adjourn the meeting. Hang in for a couple of minutes, please. So I'd like to motion to adopt the agenda, please. Councillor Morrison, Councillor Woodward, all in favour? Thank you. And adopt the minutes of the previous meeting, which was April 27th. Mover, Councillor Charwood, Councillor Woodward, all in favour? Thank you very much. Public participation, there is nobody on the list that we're aware of. And introduction to council of the Wildsafe coordinator. And Dave, you got the chair, my friend. You're there somewhere, I know you are.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. How are you guys doing? It's good to see you guys after the winter.
Nice to see you, Dave.
Yeah. Yeah. So program's up and running. A little bit of change this year. I'm not stepping out, but I've been really busy with a lot of other things. So I've kind of stepped back a little bit, and we're lucky. Nelson's actually lucky because we got 2 coordinators this year. So Rosie's going to be taking the lead. I think you can see Rosie. I don't know if you see her at the same place on the screen that I see her, but anyways, she's going to be taking over a little bit. She's very busy with some entomological work that she does in the middle of the summer. So in July and August, I'll be kind of stepping up a bit more, and she'll be stepping out for a couple months. But right now, Rosie's been very busy. Rosie has a lot of experience in the field. She's been working for the Selkirk Purcell for Creston and Samo and Weimer. And then she's worked in the Lower Mainland doing the same work. So she's been, she has a lot of background and a lot of history with the program. So I think that you'll find that she's as good, if not better, than me in doing stuff. She's been very busy, and I'll let her talk for herself and tell you what she's been up to.
Thanks, Dave. Rosie, so the easiest part of your name is the Rosie part. Please tell me how to pronounce it.
Yeah. The last name is Weinberg, and I apologize if there's some background noise. Right before the meeting, my Wi-Fi in Weimer just went out.
Oh.
So I'm down at our store and everybody's kind of being quiet and respectful, but there may be a little bit of background noise, so my apologies.
No problem. No problem, Rosie. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Rosie Weinberg. I as Dave had said, I've worked in Maple Ridge for a couple years, and I worked in the Selkirk Purcells and Salmo and Weimer for the last couple years, and this year's my first year in Nelson. On my other work, I'm a field biologist, so I have lots of experience basically interacting with wildlife on a daily basis. So far this spring, I've been busy with lots of door-to-door. There's been lots of bear activity. We've started our school programs already. We've been having some presentations. There was the cougar activity up on Pulpit. So we're doing trailhead education, some grizzly activity on the North Shore. So again, trailhead education. Looking forward to really upping the rat component of your education. And that's kind of where we're at for this spring.
Thank you, Rosie. Dave, did you have anything you wanted to add? And if not, council may have a question for Rosie or yourself going forward. So,
Yeah, not too much. Rosie's pretty much covered it. Yeah, we've been pretty busy with door to door. I think we've gotten a little bit more calls from the COS there to do some education in communities there. I think maybe the bear activity's been pretty high for this time of year, even though this time of year is normally pretty high. So. Higher than normal.
That's what I'm hearing. Okay,
Mayor, I have a couple of questions if I could. Mayor,
go ahead.
it's Colin. I just want to, two questions. Rosie, do you ride your bike from Weimer in all through our community like Dave does?
I sure do not.
Oh, okay. All right.
Dave is a paragon for that. I don't have a good enough bike for that at this point. So.
And the other question I have for you, Rosie, is that as the wildlife biologist, do you have any connections, or are you someone that we can connect with on our geese population? We've seemed to struggled a bit this year in trying to get dealing with some of our increased goslings, and don't know if that's an area of your field, or if you can point us in the direction of someone that would be an expert on that.
It's not specifically an area of my field, but I can definitely look into some of my connections and find somebody to help you guys out with that. Familiar with some of the issues around it. And my background a lot in my other work is with entomology, plant health, but also with pest management. So I do have lots of people who work with like mammals and birds and stuff like that, but also work on the human wildlife interaction where things may not necessarily go so well with geese and stuff like that down on the lower mainland. So I might be able to get you somebody that can help you out.
I would be very grateful if you could, Rosie. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, well, with that, Dave, we know you're not going to be too far away, and clearly you got somebody that's going to be able to fill your shoes. So thanks, Rosie, and thanks, Dave, for taking time to meet with us tonight and introduce yourself, Rosie. Thank you.
It's lovely to meet you all. Thank you very much.
And you're welcome to stick around.
Yeah,
We've got a couple of really interesting presentations. And in fact, the next one is Selkirk College. Andrew Whitby and Jonathan Doyle are presenting to council with regard to COVID rapid response team. But I see Alison in the picture there also. Alison, are you involved in this? No? Okay. I know you
She's filling in for
you
Kevin.
are in the next one with Joan, but you never know. It's the college, right? All right, Andrea, go ahead. Jonathan.
Thanks, Mayor Dooley. I'm going to introduce Jonathan and then hand it over to him. So on behalf of the Nelson and Area Economic Development Partnership, I'm happy to introduce Jonathan Doyle. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. So Jonathan's a faculty researcher with the Applied Research and Innovation Center at Selkirk College. He's also a self-described professional physicist and problem solver, and Jonathan's been leading up the Selkirk COVID rapid response team. So I'm just going to highlight how this fits into Nelson Area Economic Development Partnership economic recovery priorities. So back in the fall, the NAEDP met with other members of the community and identified some areas that were economic recovery priorities, one of them being business retention and expansion. And you'll note that under business retention and expansion, we identified a number of actions that we thought were priorities, one of them being technology adoption. And really what that referred to was supporting traditional businesses to adopt technology. So things like e-commerce, digital marketing, remote work, etc. And that was going to help them be more resilient during the pandemic and post-pandemic. And so that's why the team at Selkirk College was engaged. And I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan to tell you more about the work that they have been doing and that they continue to do in our region.
Great, thanks, Andrea. Yeah, so, we were at Selkirk, we were called in, I guess pretty much right away when COVID started, because of this technology initiative and trying to help small business. So, outlining the COVID problem at this point does feel a bit redundant, but I guess it's a little bit necessary. How it affects small business, and we know in Nelson as a small business, word of mouth and patronage and branding and what we know is a really important part of the business, as well as obviously foot traffic and tourism, and so that is reduced as we expected at one point and now have seen due to COVID. And some of the impacts that we've observed before and after this program have been fear and confusion. We get a lot of new rules. Today we got some new rules, much nicer rules, I will say, obviously. But rules nonetheless. And so we're constantly changing, constantly have new rules. And of course there's just less foot traffic and less reduced tourism. Maybe not this July actually, but hopefully increased. So these are sort of the problems we outlined at the beginning. And then, to put some numbers behind that, we can look at the study by the CIBC that said that, 80% of businesses were affected. It's a little bit small, the text, sorry about this, but it's, the numbers are the important part. 54% say sales have dropped, but, 76% are confident that they will rebound after the crisis. I think for us, when we're talking about how do we get local businesses and these smaller businesses, how do we have them compete and maintain resilience in the next year and potentially after the pandemic, of course. And so then the interesting numbers from this report, I think for us, were that while this is true, of the 26% that did have online operations, 30% of those saw a sales increase, which is really good, and 25 remain the same. So again, and no surprise there, everyone's staying home and we're ordering more online. So maybe not overly surprising, but still interesting to motivate getting that number of 26% up higher. These of course were in oh dear, I forget now, I think around Toronto. I'd have to double check, but these are not Nelson numbers, but we can extrapolate and interpolate. Okay, so what did we do? We got together with many of the people in this room today, Kevin and Mayor Dooley and Rick and Andrea, of course, and many others. Selkirk was there, and a few other community members, like CAST and the Better, oh dear, what's the BBA? Business, Basin Business Association or something like that. I should know acronyms a little bit better. Sorry about that. But anyway, we all got together and talked about, try to figure out what were the issues with, the local businesses with direct relation to technology. And so a lot of that was just literally the low tech level. A lot of these businesses are used to those people walking in and brand awareness. We know Jerix, we go to Jerix, wherever, that's where I go to get my bike fixed or something. And so there's been no need for a higher level of technology. So we've observed lower tech level. And as a function of that, or as a result of that, we have disorganized websites, social media accounts. People try their hand in it and it doesn't go well, or they don't see a return, so they kind of abandon it. That's pretty common. And then just general infrastructure, especially if businesses are closer to cash businesses. They don't really exist today, but sort of. And I think one of the more interesting things that we observed during the course of this was actually, digi anxiety, a term that I coined, but it's a pretty important one. People are very, very stressed out. Like business owners are very stressed out and overwhelmed by all of the different technology stuff. They're trying to stay afloat. They're just trying to stay open during COVID, and they already know they have to do all of this technology stuff to stay relevant in today's world, and now it's absolutely imperative. So, you know, I don't want to understate the value of being able to even just provide some confidence to them, and there is a strong value there. And so from this, we developed the COVID Rapid Response Project, originally as a bid to NSERC, the National Science and Engineering Research Council, as part of the National Research Council, which was, you know, initially some money we were trying to get, Selkirk was trying to get to address this issue. And then when that didn't come through, the city, you folks here, decided that this was an important initiative, important enough to, you know, co-fund it with Selkirk. So in that, we decided, you know, what we would do is do these online presence assessments. So take a look at what they looked like online. What does the store look like from a digital lens, through a digital lens, and how can we try to improve the customer accessibility and their infrastructure. And then finally, consultation and support. So even just, you know, telling them what the best technology is, or how can we coach them into interacting with you know, maybe what they call a consultant or a vendor from in town who will do a more sophisticated service than what we do. And I'll get to. It was hard to take a very linear path through this, so I will discuss what we actually provided as services. But this is more of the more generalized issues or you know, topics we were trying to hit. So to reach out to the public, we had several attempts or approaches. This was a multi-phase approach because originally, you know, we had all these plans that kept also getting interrupted by COVID, trying to go with the business walk, I think it was called, and a few other things. All these plans kept changing. Everything always changes. So referrals and outreach were our original way of interacting with the community, because we were also working with CAST and they were referring people to us. So that was our original interaction with the community and businesses. And then we've since then been doing social media posts and direct mail posts. And so the poster might look yeah, something like this. So, you know, pretty clear, just maybe not overstating what we're doing, but just hopefully engaging them to talk to us more so we can fill them in. So what are we actually doing? So what solutions are we actually implementing for them or providing for them? And, you know, we are doing many small things, and you know, we've made a pretty large impact with that. So improving the online presence, you know, Google My Business, it's surprising how many people don't even know what that is. And so it's really basic level stuff sometimes. With social media, you know, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, teaching them how to, sometimes people, you know, even teaching them that Instagram has to have square photos, silly, simple things. Not everybody knows these things. And Google Maps. So getting them located, getting them situated on social media, and finally getting them up to speed with Google My Business, very important. And so then we're updating, creating websites, various different platforms, various different methods. You know, everybody has a different way that they've went and approached it. So, you know, we've seen all these different and more platforms. We've been deploying and overhauling e-commerce sites. So we've deployed Shopify and WooCommerce, as well as interacting with the pre-existing Shopify, Square, and WooCommerce. And then finally, trying to implement some online ordering and online booking and table management, or whatever this new thing was called. Yeah, table booking, I guess. Yeah, through Gloria Foods and Open Table. So these small impacts, or these small changes we've been making, suddenly become a very big, you know, a very big list of things that we can and have helped people with. So this was one of our, this is one list of things we provide for people, and the other is this onboarding through Small Business BC, Ballasters, and Shop Local. So just to take you through a quick sample impact, I don't want to sit too long on it, and I don't want to disparage any company. So I chose this one for that reason, because it's in the valley, so maybe that's okay. Sorry. But so this is on the left is what the site looked like beforehand, and on the right, it's afterwards. A lot of this is still driven by the proprietor, so they still wanted a particular style, but a very limited and minimal web page. And then we added their store and products where you could buy them online. Similarly, we went from this feedback to this, and then a proper contact form. So these little changes make a big impact on their company, and he was delighted, and I think he's seen a pretty big turnaround on that. So the last thing I'll show you here is a little bit of the statistics around what we've provided. So we've seen, these numbers are from last week actually, but we've seen 51 clients. Of the 38 that are from Nelson, 15 came in through the intake. So we've actually been doing a lot of outreach and a lot of other methods, as well as touching other communities. So of our current 30 active projects, we have, we've onboarded, well, I guess of all the projects, we've onboarded around 300 to the Small Business BC, and around 10 to support local. If they want to be on there, they're already on there, it seems. And the number of Zoom calls, as it is for everybody, so many. So one last thing I'll show you here is just our great team of students. I can't understate the value of students enough. And each of these students has grown and learned a lot in the process of interacting with everyone and developing technologies, and they have been great. And then, our partners here, which most of whom are in the room except for Tom. I don't think he's here, but and then one last thing I'll leave you with is just some of these responses. So the text is really small. So these are just some of the quotes from people who we have helped, just to, again, reinforce in some cases here, like the value of even just being there to talk them through. Like, I've gotten near tier phone calls from people because the technology was terrifying them. So this is, so this is where I'll leave it. I can put up some links later if you have someone you would like to refer to this program. But thank you guys a lot for providing this for us, and providing this for the community, and for allowing us to be involved in it.
Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful. Questions at all from council? To Jonathan or Andrea, for that matter. Councillor Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. Jonathan, when you're in your opinion, tech is obviously a super vital piece of the business world these days. And in your opinion, do you feel like, that I'm wondering where people are getting the education to work with these tools? Like, it seems like it's so important and vital, but people are kind of, there's a gap, it seems like, about, a sort of general education on tech tools in the business world. I know it, for me, it's, I do my best, but it's, it's a struggle to keep up. There seems to be a new platform, every few moments. I guess, so is this program there to educate people and develop their know-how? Honestly, what I'm trying to ask is where's the gap we're missing here? Where are we missing? Is it in schools? Is it general education? Where do you think the gap is for people to be really good at these platforms?
Yeah, so I would say it's I have a few thoughts on it. First of all, I guess addressing I'll address where the gap is. I believe the gap is in the demographic. So most of the people who own the businesses predate social media, I guess I'll say. And but that is true. So growing up in it will change things. So we're seeing the younger business owners, not all of them, however, but some of the younger business owners will be absolutely more keen, more driven. And I think it's not even about drive and keenness. It is really about I think it is driven by anxiety. There's this resistance to going into it. You're afraid, you don't know where to start. It's if you've never been on Facebook and you go on Facebook and you're like, wow, there's a lot of buttons and I know terrible things happen on here sometimes. So what do I do? So I think I think that's one of the major gaps. And so to fix that, I mean, I believe Andrea provides a lot of these services at Community Futures. The Community Futures and CAS put on things sometimes. What we were trying to do is train people to use to be autonomous in their small, in their little tech world, teach them the technology they've already paid for. So they buy a website from someone, and some people reported that they were paying $300 to change a banner photo to a consultant. Yeah. So I taught them how to change a photo, simple stuff, but the time, you've got a list of things to do, time, it's really difficult. So, and then from the greater perspective, I mean, we're integrating tech into the general education system more and more. So I think that we'll see that pay back. So as most business owners I've spoken to, get your kids to help you is one answer. Maybe not the answer you wanted.
No,
Pay a
it's
young
great.
person, actually. Pay a young person.
Yeah. I'm just curious because I grew up in the analog and then, went into the digital in my 20s, and it's a challenge. It is super challenging and it's very complicated. So thank you, both of you, for your work helping our community.
So Jesse, is there any truth to the fact that that tie-dye thing came from you when you were up in the Slocan Valley? You were doing that in the 70s? Is that how it worked?
Well, we were, but it was just, you would just give it to your neighbors. You wouldn't have a website.
It was this swaddling cloth.
Councillor Page.
Yeah. So this kind of program, I think, is really critical, especially during an emergency and crisis like COVID, in the sense that, like, a lot of what you've spoken to, Councillor Woodward, is all about demographic shift and buffering. Like, there is these skill gaps that come along, and obviously the kids are more embedded inside of the technology, so they can carry quite a lot. My question to either Jonathan or Andrea, probably more to Jonathan, as a coordinator of the students, have there been any unexpected learnings from that group of people now that they're working closely with people in the commercial sector and the small business sector? Is there things that are there epiphanies and aha moments going on within that student body when they're thrown at the work that people are actually having problems with in the day-to-day?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, from the students, some of them seem, I guess, a bit trivial, but first of all, students are very much, with their horse blinders on. They don't see much of the outside world at this age, around 18 to 20. And so I find like my students across the board have quite an impact on it gives context to what they're studying, and it gives application to what they're studying at a very quick time, like turnaround. So usually first year students with a computer science degree or even a web development degree, like one of the students has, they don't necessarily get to work with so many different clients with so many slightly different problems so quickly. And so to see that impact feeding back, I think that was the aha moment for most of them. If that counts, it's a little bit more of a systemic thing, but I think it was important. And also just understanding how again, like a lot of them were shocked at how disconnected they were with the people who were disconnected from technology. So they didn't realize how little, like, what they take for granted is not understood by everyone. So I think it helped them communicate better with people who don't know as much as they do. And I think that's an important part. As a scientist, you have to be able to, or anyone who's a professional or what's that called? An expert in their field needs to be able to communicate that to non-experts in the field. So I think all of those are really good skill sets.
And a quick supplemental, if I may.
Absolutely.
So when we take the crisis piece away, that kind of was the impetus for this program. Do we have the scaffolding of a program that should see support going forward? Could we still deliver some sort of long-term value to our community and to our student bodies? Could this feedback loop be something that could be maintained on some other level on a go-forward basis? Would there be value there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'm a bit biased because I really like to see applied work with the students because I've seen that feedback so strongly. Um, but I think like, my intuition is yes. I think that there would be, especially, we have the students around in mostly in the summer. So, if we did a summer, if that was an appropriate time in the business world to do a summer blitz, that would be a really interesting thing to have one or two students every summer. But of course, having them all year round is more accessible to business owners. So they're probably very busy in the summer. But I think so because we're not going to get rid of the older demographic of business owners so quickly. I think the only reason it wouldn't be valuable is if in any way it felt like we were taking away from the service providers in the town who are I believe it won't because we provide a different service, but I wouldn't want to have this initiative that then took away from paying people down at the jam factory for what they do. So.
Mr. Mayor?
Kevin, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just want to actually add to that question. Interesting enough, the Minister of, I think it's called Employment of the federal government was on CBC this weekend and was talking about part of the federal budget is to train 28,000 young people on helping businesses digitize. So I think there's a real opportunity to tap into that program and maybe create ongoing, or at least for a period of time while that program's out there. So I'd certainly encourage Jonathan and maybe Andrea to look into that. It was, the interview was really around the concern with young people graduating in this COVID time, and that they get the same education and same opportunities as others, and the federal government's trying to create pathways to make sure that that does happen. So I think that's a real opportunity, and I would be remiss without acknowledging that the genesis of this program really came from when Marla Olson led our outreach team to phone, I forget how many businesses, over 500 businesses that we connected, and certainly that was a theme that came back during that outreach. And really the goal was not just during the pandemic, but the recognition that the world is, you need to be able to compete in that digital world as well as your foot traffic world to compete in this new marketplace. And the hope was one of those
Read my website.
silver linings that came out of COVID would be that our businesses would be in a better position coming out on that digital side than coming into it. So that's still a hope and a goal, and that's why we've worked on building things like the Small Business BC and portal, and trying to place our businesses in a preferred place on that map.
Thanks very much, Kevin.
Thanks.
Andrea, Jonathan, that's a really interesting report, and it's always exciting when you can work with students and young people, because they come forward with great ideas. Like McDonald's built an empire on working with young people. Really, when you think about it, they're amazing. And we're so fortunate to have the college here to be able to just sort of pick up the phone and get a hold of somebody at the college and get these programs off the ground. And Andrea, I'd like you to, if you want, to close us out here. I don't see any further questions, and I personally thank you for carrying this ball through COVID. You've done great work.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks to the team at Selkirk for doing an incredible job. And I think the thing I'd like to close with is, I think we're super fortunate in our region to have a lot of well-funded business support programs, like the Basin Business Advisors can help with tech advising, TASK can help with tech advising. But what's really unique about the work that Selkirk has done is it's a step past the advising and it's doing the hands-on work. And that's, like Jonathan said, it's those small incremental changes or learnings that I think can make a really big difference. So I would echo everyone's comments that we're super fortunate to have a team like Selkirk in our region.
Thank you. Okay, thanks very much, Jonathan. And maybe next time you're back, we'll get you to play a tune on that fiddle you have hanging behind you there. So.
It's a viola of interest,
Oh, is that what it
but
is?
still
Well, get a-
fiddleable
get a
indeed.
fiddle.
Yeah, I just like to always state that so I don't get confused with violinists.
All right. Okay. Well, we won't have you back then. Bring a fiddle and we will. All right. Thanks very much, you guys. And we're Joan. I think you're next, maybe.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Go ahead. You got the floor.
Okay, thanks very much. So lovely to be here. I hope I'm sharing my screen. There we go. I'm Joan Exley, and I'm the Community Literacy Outreach Coordinator for the Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy here in Nelson. And Allison, I can't see you, but
Hi.
Joanna.
Yes, hi everyone. Nice to be here. Yep, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, and you know what, Alison,
Yes.
you got to talk to Kevin when you go home, because when he started talking, he bumped you off the screen. So you might have to talk to him when you go home.
We'll practice. Okay, I'm Allison Alder, and I have two hats on tonight. I'm the board chair for CBAL. It's a great honor to be involved in this organization. And I'm also the Nelson Daybreak Rotary president. And the relevance of that will become apparent as we walk through our presentation. Back to you, Joan.
Great, thanks. It's always nice to work with someone who's wearing more than one hat. So we wanted to start tonight by just sharing a little poem with you. It's by Ryan Allwright, and it goes, "When I came here, I was looking for a community, and then I realized that I was helping to create one." And on the slide there, you can also see the CBAL logo, very small font, but in the bottom you can see our tagline, which says "Learning Together." And this idea of creating community and learning together are two powerful pieces in the StoryShare project, which Allison and I would like to share with you tonight. And to do that, we're going to take you on a little photo walk to share the idea. Maybe. There we go. So the idea of StoryShare started many years ago with something called Story Walk, a deconstructed children's storybook spread out on boards that created a walk through its pages. And these have been put up in parks and schools at different events, combining physical activity and family time together and literacy. Families come together, running, jumping through the pages of this fun, interactive shared activity. This picture is from Canada Day down at Lakeside Park. But this little idea of Story Walk grew a little bit bigger. And we wondered what would happen if we shared more than children's books. What would happen if we shared poetry and youth writing and photography and maybe local Indigenous history? And what if local authors shared themselves and we shared ourselves and we walked through our community spaces? And so a group of community members came together, many of them are watching the live stream tonight, to talk about what that might look like, to imagine what the possibilities might lead to. And so the concept of a story share was born. And we dreamed of making more permanent structures that could withstand rain and snow and could keep us sharing our stories, challenge us to stretch our thoughts and our experiences. And we imagine a place for everyone, and we mean everyone, to weave our stories through the fabric of our community. And the group of people that are talking about this use words like intergenerational and inclusion and diversity and community conversation. And the fabric of this idea began to be sown.
So our our conversation committee, the people who came together to first start to flesh out this idea, included the Rotary Club. So there's where Daybreak Rotary comes in. It included the college. It included the Rosemont School. It included School District number 8, the Nelson Public Library, Nelson and District Youth Center, and CBAL, of course. So, and various community members. So obviously there was a deep interest in story, in being outdoors, and in sharing and building community. So the letters of support that we have to date include those from Daybreak Rotary, from Nelson Rotary, from both School District 8 and Rosemont School, from the Jubilee Manor, and from the Public Library. And we envision that as the project evolves and comes into fruition, that a smaller group of people, likely from those you see on the screen in front of you, a smaller group of people would be involved in curating which stories would be presented in our story share. So one month or one season, it might be one story celebrating a certain aspect of our community, and another month it might be another one. So that content would be managed and go forward to allow us to look at various angles of things that we have in common, and maybe things that we could learn more about.
And so the group that's been talking collected words like equity and respect and invitation and reconciliation, and these foundational ideas came together to create some goals, creating an illustration of what the pages of our story share might look like. And so you can see there some of the goals we talked about as we're walking together through our community. The stories that we experience bring us closer together, and they enable engagement in multiple literacies. Stories help us to create our conversation, and when we share our stories with each other, we create community, a welcoming community where all people are valued and celebrated.
So our proposed location for the story share is at the Art Gibbon Park in Rosemont. And the Nelson Daybreak Rotary Club has had a few projects that we have helped to spearhead in that neighborhood. So we're deeply grateful that CBAL brought us into this as a community idea, community initiative. Some of the things that complement the park already include the Nelson Skateboard and Bike Park, the disc golf course, the intergenerational park project, which is currently underway under the guidance of the Daybreak Rotary Club, hoping to be completed somewhat soon, where there will be pathways through the park. The fundraising is underway for that right now, as I'm sure you're all aware. So this is a perfect timing for a story share to also be considered for Art Gibbon Park. It's a perfect location for a number of reasons. Rosemont School is just a hop, skip, and a jump carefully across the street. Many families live in the area. And in addition to that, the Jubilee Manor residents are right there and would be able to intermingle with those who are already using the park as well. And of course, it is not only a park celebrated and used by the neighborhood, but also by people who come from all areas of the region to use the park.
So as we move forward with this idea, there will be jobs to do, but those are for the next chapters of the story share, and those details will be determined.
So we believe that the Story Share initiative aligns perfectly with Nelson's path to 2040. Most specifically, we think it aligns with cultural strength. The opportunity to experience a story together builds attachment to and interest in culture, as well as building awareness of multiple aspects of our cultural composition through story. We believe that the healthy neighborhoods, the pathway will draw people into the park. It's yet another reason to get outside, to be with others and to engage in a meaningful way, to learn across generations and social groups. And we also see resiliency as a way that this project will contribute to the path to 2040, deepening our awareness and understanding. Together through story, we'll build trust and interrelatedness within our community. It'll help to maintain and enhance economic, social, ecological, and cultural systems that strengthen our ability to withstand future challenges, which I believe is what your path to 2040 is hoping to accomplish as well.
So this idea came because stories are powerful. And when you tell a story, you spark a connection. Humans have communicated through stories since the beginning of time. And stories hold our thoughts, our history, our value. Through stories, we can go places we've never been before. We can imagine possibilities. And we can see ourselves in the stories that we share with others. We can learn from them. Stories help us to understand and grow, confront challenges, and become the best versions of ourselves. And the truth about stories is that's all we are. And through the community StoryShare, we hope that we can do that together. So we invite you to come down the path to the next chapters of our story. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Alison. Okay, any questions from council or any comments?
I have one,
Jess,
Mayor.
Oh, sorry, I can't see you, Jess. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know it's challenging.
Joan, if you pull down your presentation, then I can see the full screen.
I was going to say I'm having a hard time finding
We got Jesse
how to do that.
Councillor Woodward, you're on.
Okay. Joan and Alison, thank you very much. It's a lovely idea. So I would imagine there would be the things that you would put story in that you could put different ones in over time. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's the idea, is to make this a more permanent structure. So the story walks that we use right now are temporary corrugated plastic on a little H wire thing that you stick into the ground. And so what we're really wanting is something more permanent, where a story could be left up for, say, a month, and the community could really enjoy it over time. And so, you know, when we're using the word story, we're not just talking children's stories. Like, I hope that became clear that one of the things that excites me the most about this idea is sharing stories through all sorts of media. So whether that be you know, youth writing, or there was an idea that came up at our meeting of the elementary kids at Rosemont interviewing the elders at Jubilee and doing biographies, and maybe some photographers would come and take pictures of those elders. And so the content is whatever people in the community want it to be. And so that excites me a lot, the idea of sharing story in different media, how we could use local photography to share ourselves a little bit more. You know, being a literacy worker, the idea of sharing adult literacy stories that adult literacy learners could read as they walk through a park, or writing that they do that can then be shared and celebrate them in our community too.
Yeah, and maybe I would just, sorry, Jesse.
Sorry, go ahead.
I would just
ahead,
add to that the group that would be curating the stories would have a kind of an overall plan for that, and they would be the ones to kind of field the, you know, what is the theme for whether it's the year or the season, and curate that.
Could I just add one thing? I've seen something similar in subway stations. As you go down escalators, there's stories you read as you go down, and then to the train. And when you're waiting, there's stories that you can see and pictures and stuff. So, but So I guess the actual unit, the stories would have to be built quite well. That would be a challenge to make sure that would be weatherproof and
Yeah.
all that.
So you can imagine during this time of COVID, people like me who work in community literacy across the province have really taken up to using story walks because it's an outdoor space where we can share stories and literacy activities. And so there's 105 literacy outreach coordinators like myself across the province. And so I reached out to them, and there's a lot of interest in other communities. So there's a sharing happening in the province of ideas for what that structure might be made of, what it looks like. There's just one or two other communities that are a bit ahead of us in their ideas. So there's a lot of coming together. We've also got the library reaching out to the library community, and Rotarians are involved in this heavily across the province. So we've got the Rotarians on the committee reaching out to Rotary to sort of talk about those issues around weatherproofness and what materials to use. We've got 2 and 1 pending quote in terms of different materials to use and what that might cost. So we're just in that initial stage of looking at design for that.
Thank you very much. It's an awesome idea.
Thanks, Councillor Woodward. Anybody else? Okay, well, Alison and Joan, thank you both very much for all your good work, and special thanks to all the volunteers you listed on that little wheel that you have there, and especially to Rotary for their great work in the park in general. And this will be an added feature of that park that I think will be a wonderful experience for everybody. Thank you both very much.
Great. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, next we have Jordan, and I think I see Jordan on the screen there. Jordan Martin is presenting to Council with regard to the city's operated farmers market to provide a review of 2020 operation and offer a preview of 2021. Jordan, you've got the floor.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, okay, good. I'm just checking out. So good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. So tonight I'm going to talk about the Nelson Farmers Market and the Youth Center. And so I'm just going to start off with a bunch of 2020 highlights for you. I'm just gonna, I gotta resume my slideshow, sorry. Oh. Okay, so in 2020, we successfully coordinated 37 markets, considering we started mid-June and mid-pandemic. We provided over $40,000 in market coupons to families, pregnant people, and seniors. We increased marketing efforts and held 2 contests, which were received really well by the public. We initiated the Farmers Market Advisory Committee, which we intend to continue going further. And we provided employment for, I would say, about 10 youth. So additionally, in 2020, with an initiative from City Council, we combined a food security initiative to coincide with farmers market operations. And we created, as you all know, the Farmers Market Food Security webpage on the City of Nelson. And we also worked with vendors in the public to develop positive relationships, and we are continuing to do so. So that's just a brief highlight of 2020, and we have a lot more going on for 2021. So currently this year, in our early season, we've got more vendors to both Saturday and Wednesday markets. Saturdays, so I would say right now we're currently at what we saw peak season last year. On Saturdays, we have upwards of 41 vendors starting currently. And as we go into the season further, we have up to 51 who have already stated that they're going to be coming. We really are a small business incubator, and I see a lot of these businesses really up and coming. You know, we've got Usilly Sausage Maker, Magpie Essentials, and they're all providing really awesome local products to our community, and they're starting off at our farmers market. So this year in total, we will be coordinating 46 markets in 2021. And we also have a new time for the Wednesday farmers markets. Last year, we didn't see as much traction as we would have liked, but this year, I believe with the new market hours being 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., we can really catch those people, you know, who work normal business hours or who can't make it down at 9 a.m. or, you know, work in restaurant and retail. So I do foresee it being a really positive thing for this farmers market. And
Sorry,
so this,
Jordan.
yep.
Jordan,
Is it
sorry,
Jesse?
can you go
I
to the
can't
next,
see.
yes, sorry, the next tab. I don't think the 2021 current operations. Did you want to switch over to that?
Oh, you guys are viewing the wrong screen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you.
There you go. So we completed the first Mother's Day garden starter market. We have new farmers market shopping bags. They're slated to arrive at the beginning of summer. And these bags were part of a marketing firm based out of Calgary, who local businesses here in Nelson are going to be able to promote their businesses through these bags. And so we've recently also been approved for the 2021 Farmers Market Nutrition Coupon Program. They'll be arriving early June, and a lot of people are looking forward to it, and we've gotten a lot of inquiries about the coupon program. So I've also, one more thing I didn't add to this slide is I have recently complete a mentorship program with the Comox Valley Farmers Market, and I'm working with their farmers market manager, and she's really provided excellent guidance for me for this year, and she's given me good initiatives, and it's just been a really good relationship builder, and I'm learning lots of good things from her. So I just wanted to kind of put that on here because it's not on a slide here. But additionally, this year we were able to hire a farmers market coordinator, which we will continue to work on the food security webpage and initiatives. So it really does coincide with the path to 2040 sustainability. And 2040 sustainability. I'm really looking forward to what we can accomplish. And additionally, we're collaborating with City of Nelson departments to provide handouts at the farmers market. So any informational city initiatives that are going on, we'll be able to hand it out. Because of COVID, we can't have formal get-togethers, and this is a way of really promoting what we're doing here in Nelson through our farmers markets. And then I'll just go to the next one. So the Nelson and District Youth Center and the Nelson Farmers Market. So I would really want the Youth Center to incorporate the Nelson Farmers Market into our regular operations. And here are a few pointers. It increases more employment opportunities for youth to enhance their skill development and opportunities. The revenue supports the Youth Center operations, which I've spoken to vendors and they're really happy about that being part of the Youth Center. And we have the ability to run in times of crisis. The farmers markets have been deemed essential services under, I guess during COVID, it came out that it was an essential service. And the City of Nelson and the Youth Center both have the ability to run that, allowing us to support our local economy. And additionally, we're an ongoing member of the BC Farmers Market Association, and we're developing really strong connections. And I want to see those connections develop and continue. And of course, we will continue to work with the Nelson Farmers Market Advisory Committee to provide great initiatives and an outlook for the farmers market. And of course, with the food security initiative, we can just continue all the good work we started last year to further into future operations. And of course, it supports the City of Nelson's initiatives efficiently. For example, the Nelson Next program, and it's working towards our path to sustainability. And that is it. And I just left with a little photo of all the staff from last year. There'll be another one from all the staff this year. And that's it for tonight. Does anyone have any questions?
Good work, Jordan. Any questions? Councillor Woodward, you're just a talking machine tonight, aren't you? Hey?
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's all good. It's all good.
I don't get out much.
I'm gonna stop sharing. Sorry, there.
Jordan, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for, last year you picked it up in a pretty intense time and ran with it, and this year it feels like you're able to move into it in a much more controlled fashion, I guess. My query to you is, how is the Cottonwood site working for you? And are there improvements that you would like to see there after spending a year working down there?
Cottonwood's been working great for the Saturday markets, for sure. Wednesday, we do see a little bit of a decline in vendor attendance. However, I think with the new market hours that going forward further into the season, we'll see that change. So additionally, as for the improvements, I know that, I mean, it's a beautiful location. Cottonwood, I think we can all agree, is just stunning. And with the improvements that's going on with the society working down there, I mean, we have the ability to have one of the most beautiful markets, I would say, in the province. So I do think that some additional parking would really be great, and more shading for people who, especially for the vendors who've got soaps that could melt, or, you know, their vegetables can wilt in the extreme heat, things like that. Oh, can anyone hear me?
Sorry.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah, it's all good. Okay,
Okay.
Jesse?
Oh, I'm having trouble here.
Did you have a supplemental, Jesse?
Sorry. Yeah, one more supplemental. Yeah. Sorry. One more supplemental. Do you think, because music was a big part of markets, and have you heard anything that you're going to be able to have music again?
Yes, so you're allowed to have music. A big fear of mine is that the music is going to create people gathering, and currently right now the BCCDC has still, you know, want people to move in a shop don't stop type of fashion with all farmers markets. And we do promote people bringing music for their booths, and currently we're working with a busker who will potentially be coming peak season once we see public health orders, you know, relax a little bit more.
Great. Thanks so much, Jordan. Thank you for your work.
Yeah, you have to be prudent and keep your eye on, you know, what's coming out from the province as far as the regulations. Janice.
Every day.
I just want to say that
we got you. It's okay. You're good.
Can't hear me?
You're good.
Oh. I just want to say, Jordan, so far so good. I was down on Saturday, and it was really great. One comment that came up from somebody that asked me at a booth was whether or not, and actually you probably can answer this question, but maybe from the other city staff can, is whether or not the bathrooms, when they're completed down there, will have hot and cold running water. And of course, that would be something that would be of interest to anybody to get their hands nice and clean after, you know, a year and a half of wearing a mask and washing your hands. It's always kind of nice to wash your hands in the warm water. So that was just a question. So something that might be followed up on, but I mean, it was great to see all those people down there and so many new vendors and interesting vendors. And I spent way too much money, but I just want to say that I kind of thought, what are they going to have down there? Lettuce. Well, I came home with some lettuce, but I came home with all kinds of other little goodies and souvenirs and trinkets. So I think it's going to be a great year. And I'm so glad that you're linked in with the Comox Valley farmers market there, because it's one of the most vibrant farmer markets, I would have to say, in British Columbia. And so I think that's a great linkage. The other really big one that I've been to is the one that's in Ladner, and they really struggled last year, but I'm sure that they'll be trying to get back on track as well this year. So I think we're going to be right there with the best of them. Thanks.
Yeah, and you know, this year, the results from the farmers market survey that was sent out last year, people really wanted food vendors. And so that's been a goal this year, is to bring in a variety of different foods. And I think we've succeeded in that. And like Twyla from Comox Valley, she's just been a great resource in providing me with so many good insights and recommendations that I think really our operations have solidified in such a good way this year.
So I don't know if, Jordan, if Colin or Kevin are still on there, but about the improvement side, we did talk about getting that parking lot improved and paved and probably line marked, so there'd be some kind of structure to the traffic flow. It was difficult, even with the valuable work the students did last year. Even they had trouble sort of managing the one-way system, which actually works quite well if you can get people to understand it. So, Colin, I don't know if you got any update on that or not.
Yeah, I have a few updates. We're just in the process right now of finishing up the detailed design on the washroom, and so that should go for tender pretty quick, and I'm 99.87% confident that it has both running hot water and cold water. but we'll confirm on that.
Yeah.
The parking piece, and that's kind of one of those things that it'll be interesting because we got this great market going on, but then, you know, we're going to be putting a bathroom in, and we were also looking at a bit of the cleanup of the area, some leftover concrete in some of those spaces, and so there's some work to do there. So I would be optimistic that we get the washroom done, get some of those areas finished. It may not be the parking and all the things that you would like to see in 2021 here, but I would say that our goal would be that for 2022 that those are all dealt with. One of the other challenges, or one of the things that we're working on is, as you know, we're wanting to have housing down there. So we're also in the process of having that work done, especially with the grant we received. And so we've got a number of little projects that are going on down there. So I think it's going to be busy, and I would hope that there's patience from vendors and customers and the like, but we're on the road to getting there. But I sometimes get a bit concerned about thinking about having parking in lines and then having a washroom installed, and that not always running in line together.
Yeah,
So can I just
I understand.
I just want to chime in.
I just want to add
One
to
of the things we did talk about though last year, Colin, was we did talk about all of those pieces for sure, and they have to be sort of put together in some kind of rotation for sure. But we did talk about potentially, at the very least, putting some type of calcium or something on that parking lot to keep the dust down, because it was really bad at times last year with the dust. So just something to put in your back pocket there and keep in mind if you have time to look into that. And the alley itself can be quite bad with potholes and so forth. So maybe there's a way to sort of just do those minor upgrades in the short term. And
Yes, absolutely. So just on the parking, we did this year, we put out barricades, and what it's done is in an area where people can double up on the parking, and potentially we've had 3 hit and runs last year. We've initiated a one-way, we put up signs courtesy of Public Works, who've given us signs, and people now I've noticed this year that there's a big change in people actually going one way. And in fact, they haven't really been, it hasn't been a two-way.
excellent. Councillor Page. And sorry, Councillor Lockenberg, you were first.
I just want to give it to Rick.
Yeah,
He's been
sorry,
patient, so Rick, then me.
Okay.
Thanks, Councillor. Thanks, John. Jordan, great work as always. This is really excellent. So I have 2 questions that are kind of unrelated, so I'll try to get through them pretty quick. The first one is Wednesday and moving back to Baker Street. We've looked at, or we've seen previous to this, that the public health order, or the province is suggesting that by September we should be at that stage 4, which looks like pretty much open. And so a lot of the impetus to move the market off of Baker Street was to deal with the social distancing challenges for the businesses on Baker Street. We don't seem, with that step 4, to even have that issue. So thoughts on that? And then the second, maybe I'll leave that, and then either Keith will go to you, or if this is quick, I'll ask my second.
Okay, so I can answer, I think right now for this year, for the 2021 operations, we should remain down at Cottonwood Park. Paul's is my recommendation for this year. And then, because in September, we're going to be slowly dwindling down, as mid-October is the last market. And then I think over the winter, we could reassess and really talk with, the public, local businesses about potentially moving the market back up to Baker.
Okay, thanks. And then the second question I had is, when we initially started this, the Eco Society was, this was the Eco Society's market, and I don't think we've given them enough credit for bringing the market to where it is today, or even or even had the discussion about what their role should be going forward. It was sort of always left as an open question about how to bring Eco Society back in. So I just want to just ask your thoughts, or maybe broader to council and staff on how do we, reopen that conversation, because it did seem that we left everybody, including Eco Society, under the impression that it was still open.
Right,
think that-
absolutely.
Jordan,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't
is it
know if
Kevin?
that's fair for you to sort of answer that question. That's probably more of a council discussion. I think Jordan stepped in and done a very really good job of running this, and
Yeah.
I think for all the reasons she put in the presentation of why it might, why we think it's a good fit with the youth center is that's Jordan's piece to put out there, and I think there's a lot of validity to it, and that was, I know when we looked at it at the time, it was certainly on an emergent basis, but as as Jordan's got to work with the the vendors, etc. The end goal was to provide the very best market we could, engage youth in food security, etc. Create some employment for them, be a possibly a funding source for the youth center, but primarily can we support and have the best market out there. And I think that's happened. I don't know if I haven't heard anything from the Eco Society since that time, and so certainly we can reach out to them and ask them, but I think they have the very same goals and ambitions to have the very best farmers market and food security being the best. So hopefully they appreciate what's been done, and it sounds like Jordan's been able to build a very good relationship with the vendors. They seem to be quite happy, and I know that advisory committee has been invaluable, and but certainly we can reach out to the Eco Society and have a conversation of kind of where they're feeling right. Like I said, I haven't heard anything directly from them. I'm not sure if anybody else has at this stage, but we can, I think that's more of a council discussion with the Eco Society versus the awkward position for Jordan to be in the middle.
Yeah, I apologize, Jordan. I didn't. I meant to raise it. I didn't mean to drop it on you. So I think it's something we should close, like button up. It feels it's a loose end. We should really have that discussion. So yeah, as council, I think we should.
Well, we certainly concur with your comment of the effort and the product to where it was, and Jordan's done just a fabulous job of getting thrown in the deep end and being able to to not only help it get through last year, but this year just sounds like it's it's just bigger, better, and has so many great benefits for youth and the youth center. And
thank you, Kevin. Councillor Page.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Lautenberg that we should have a conversation about it, simply because it was a response that isn't to take away from the very excellent job the youth center is doing, but we are talking about two social enterprises that are capable of delivering those benefits on either side. So it's not one or the other, but we have taken an action in order to ensure the viability, which should be weighed in our deliberations. There are certainly a strong case to be made to keep what we've developed here over the last year, but I think we do need to really have the discussion at the end of it. So I agree in that context with Councillor Lotberg that we need to give the Eco Society a fair shake in having that discussion. And that point I think has been belabored already, so I won't belabor it some more. My question on the operational side of things is, you talked about shade and services. I know the washrooms are a dependency in order to get power, I believe, to the food vendors, which is going to open up the kinds of vendors that are possible down in that space. When you're talking about shade, are we talking about having our own structures? Are we talking about trees? Are we talking like what are we talking about that will provide additional shade in that ring? I'm assuming in the ring.
Yeah, I envision shade sails that could come up and down just for the market. And I think there is a local organization that does provide them, just to provide that additional market feel. So of course, when the Cottonwood Falls Park is utilized for other events, that these things can come down. That's kind of what I was thinking of when I was thinking of shade.
Okay. And when we look at the other utilities like water, power, everyone is good in that respect for now, or is there more we need to be doing there?
Yeah, I'm currently, Peter Sinstad is working on electrical, which will be happening, I believe, this year or quite soon. And as for the washrooms, they'll be potentially the fall. And once the electrical's in, all the vendors can be spread out throughout the market and not just coordinated off to one area, which is where they are right now.
Yeah, they're kind of stuck on extension cords, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so again, supply chain disruption has been a real issue for trying to get the electrical component finished. We had really, my goal had been pushing to make sure that this was done before the market was open, but there's been some real challenges with getting material.
Thank you. So I just wanted to go back a few months, and we had the advisory committee, and Councillor Woodward and I sat in on the meetings, and we'd probably be having another one pretty soon, I imagine. But
yeah,
part of the conversation, Jordan, was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, was that we knew that there was an opportunity for some profits from the market, and I thought that was going to be reinvested in the market. What I'm hearing today is that money's going to be reinvested in the youth center.
well, I guess just the whole department as a whole. So whether that's the market or the youth center, I think that would be a discussion with, I guess, Colin to decide where all those fundings go, or sorry, all the revenues go.
And I think if you look at the capital that we spent on that market, we more than invested double the profits from the market into that.
I understand.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, yeah, I'm excited to see, even from where we ended up last year and then the goals. I mean, one of the reasons that we pride ourselves on taking pressure off our taxpayer is the entrepreneurial spirit, with which Jordan is a big part of. And so when you even look at this year's budget, there's a lot of entrepreneurial revenues that we were able to put back in, the market being one of them. Yeah. And so that's a place that's I guess just don't want all of a sudden people going, hey, we found money. In most cases, we're kind of banking on some of this money to make sure that we come in on a regular, what our budget is as far as our operations for the year.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Colin. Jordan, I don't think there's any further questions. Thanks very much to you and your staff. And once again, youth's been a big part in this, as we've seen tonight in previous presentations. So thank you very much. And it's hopefully in the next couple of years, it'll be even bigger and better.
And Mayor,
at some point, potentially back on Baker Street. And thanks for all your good work.
Yeah,
and Mayor, just while you're here, because Jordan isn't always big on tooting her horn, but while all this was going on, she was also out getting her degree finished. And so I don't know if council was aware of all of that, but also doing schoolwork with all of these different projects going on. And she just finished and passed. And so we had a little internal thing that we got to see on that, but I didn't know if council was also aware that Jordan had completed that.
Good for you, Jordan.
Thank you.
And Jordan, and secure, getting bike security. Oh, sorry, Cal. I was going to say, Jordan, you've also you're doing this, you're going to school, and you're running the youth center, and you just got bike security in the parkade. Like, it's amazing. Thank you.
And a family to boot.
Yeah. Family,
yes. Yes.
All right.
I know we're trucking on. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah.
Well,
I don't, am I allowed to answer that?
I'm just wondering, as we get into next year with the Wednesday market, do we have all our ducks in a row in terms of the consultation with the downtown businesses, especially with the fact that now they haven't had it there for 2 years? I'm anticipating any movement back is going to create a blowback of its own kind, and I'm wondering how we can get well in front of it and
Thanks, Keith.
make it a clear shot to get over there, so we're not arguing about this come March next year.
Jordan did mention
Yeah, I
it
think.
earlier that she was going to do a consultation with the business prior to bringing the market back to Baker. So when do you see that starting, Jordan? Because you did mention it earlier in your presentation.
I would say I would start it near the end of this year's season, given in waiting to see where COVID's going to take us. But definitely, if we are on the path to being reopened again fully, then I would definitely approach all the businesses and maybe have a session with them just to get their feedback, or individually talk to them, whether that be, and then decide where it's going to be located.
The other, so council put that actually on corporate services plate because there was some concern in the past that it was hard for them to be honest with with the market vendor or market, the person running or the organization running the market. So that's certainly on Sarah's plate was last before the pandemic started to to have a better consultation process where people felt more free to to state their potential real position where they may not feel that was fair to want to give that same feedback to the person running the market. So so that was on Sarah's plate. It just didn't happen last year because of obviously the COVID. But Sarah, I don't know if you want to comment any more on that, but I know you had started.
We
come up
actually,
with a process.
before this sort of, I don't know, this part of the lockdown happened again, Jordan and I did really think about and start to plan for having Wednesdays back up on Baker Street. And Jordan, did you connect with the businesses up there?
I did.
Yeah.
And there were, I would say, half in an L shape of Hall and Baker, and I would say it cut down the middle between the ones that I did get to speak to, because I didn't get to speak to all of them. The business owners and the managers weren't available, but half were for it and half were fully against it.
And I think that we have lots of work to do in that department. I think we did before COVID, and I think that we still do. And now we do have some time to plan better, and I think Jordan has established some really solid relationships and has proven that, I mean, the Eco Society did as well, that the market is really a very, very valuable event for the community. And so I think, like I say, we've got some work to do, but I think that we have enough time to plan to do it really, really well. And that definitely includes businesses, but it definitely includes the greater community as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
It's a fair statement, because the other part that I think will be quite interesting to me is in this time next year, potential for maybe the civic center construction underway. So where's that for a bottleneck? We still haven't kind of heard where the Vernon Street hole, where that 120 unit kind of construction site idea is. You'll be right in the finishing, I think, of the Victoria Street component as well. There could also at that stage be looking at our construction potentially, depending on how we work through things here and what council's approval will be for the transit exchange as well. So could see quite a bit of stuff going on in the downtown next year as well.
Good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Jordan.
You're welcome.
So clearly
You're welcome.
You're ahead of the curve here, and that's fantastic. And I agree with you, because the phases that were laid out today, probably the earliest you could start that conversation is September anyway, like to really get to
Absolutely.
the meat of the subject anyway, at least. So, all right. Thanks very much, Jordan. Appreciate
You're welcome.
presentation.
Thank you, Jordan.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jordan.
Okay. That was the last presentation, folks. Is there anything council wants to add? It says council reports, late items. We didn't have any. And last but not least is a motion to adjourn, but Sarah has something she wants to speak to you as soon as we close down. Motion to adjourn? Councillor Renwick? No? Oh, you want to turn up your thermostat? Go ahead.
Sorry, under council reports, I just want to bring this to council's attention. As you know, I attend the chamber meetings, and this was something that came about from, I think about close to a year ago now, when the downtown got tagged with graffiti badly. And it's in its infancy stage, but I just thought I'd make council aware of this, that the chamber is coming up with a downtown graffiti removal program, where they will be approaching businesses that either are tagged with hard to remove graffiti, such as on brick buildings or on the second floor of buildings, as there is some downtown, and they're going to ask the business or the building owners to participate for half the cost of removal. They've secured a company that knows how to take it off of those hard buildings or those brick buildings. They also want to put a database together so that if you own a building and you get tagged, they know the paint color that you use and what have you, and they just pick up the phone and say, hey, you got tagged. It's going to be $150, 75 to you, and we'll pick up the other 75. So like I said, it's in its infancy stages right now. And the one thing that came to mind was, I think a year ago, we put some money aside from the parking meters for the downtown business improvement, that maybe we could offer some of that up in some way, shape or form, match what they've got or something to that effect. Just thought I'd throw it out there for future consideration.
Thank you very much. Nicole?
Cal, was there any conversation about what's been done in the past? Mayor Dooley, I even think I saw you out with the Rotary Club in the alleys, and it was led, as I recall, by Amber Santos, who is currently the Mural Festival coordinator. And they had an approach that wasn't so much about removing, but painting over. And the idea, and why we've ended up with so many murals in our alleys, is the idea that if it's beautiful and we're showing some respect and that we're taking sort of the artful approach, that the tagging won't happen, and that if we're out there just putting gray boxes over things, it just doesn't look any better in the end. There's just all this patchy kind of stuff going on. Weren't you a part of that, Mayor? Do
one
I
of the
remember
reasons
that correctly?
Rotary they didn't abandon that program, but one of the reasons they stepped away from it was because the mural
thing took over in a sense.
From there. Yeah, exactly.
But there maybe is some sort of continued bridge thing there that could happen, and they just have, there's a whole bunch of people in that group who are connected to those who might be tagging, and there, there's a bit of a cultural thing there.
Absolutely. There is. I know I spoke at length with Amber about this. Unfortunately, not every building owner wants to have a mural on his building, and a lot of the buildings that we're talking about are buildings that are brick facade. I'm thinking of the Daily News building, the Bank of Montreal, etc., where you don't want paint or a mural on there. So yes, and I think there was the Rotary Daybreak that went around and put the gray over them because of what was tagged. So yeah, and it was great to see the murals come about because of that, or part of the reason for it. But again, there are certain places and certain building owners that don't touch my building, it's mine, and I don't want anything on it. So
yeah. Fair enough. Thanks.
Thank you, Cal. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Renwick, Councillor Page, all in favor? Carried. Okay, stick around for a few minutes. Sarah's going to sign us off here, and then we'll thought we made the 8:30, but now we gotta stay.